What's going on, everybody? It is Stefan Walter here with Vindec EU, where healing is part of the hustle and it's not a luxury. Today, we got Matt Bertho.
Yep.
Okay, you need to just take the T
Yeah,
out.
I know.
And then we got Angela Goodman with us. Matt owns Voice by Matt, and you own Evolve. So today we're talking a little bit about trauma. And one thing I really like about this conversation is, we were talking about it earlier before the show starts, is nurture versus nature, where you start versus where you can end up. And it's not a defining factor. And you guys got some great stories. So we'll go back and forth. I got some notes, but it's all organic. But one thing I really do like about what you guys do, and I've recently found, is the healing power in helping others and being with others and understanding and having that lived experience. So going here, it does say that sometimes the best therapists and the best healers in the world are the ones that suffer the most. And I believe that's true. Kind of like the best singers that write music.
Yeah.
So with that, this one is called The Act That Became the Work. So for Matt, your grandpa took his own life, your dad drank, and you grew up in a home where emotions weren't expressed. Then you spent 20 plus years teaching people how to use their voice. Talk about that.
It was about sophomore year, I think. It was in the fall. And I remember being in my bedroom after football practice, and I heard my mom scream on the phone in the living room. And I never heard my mom really scream like that before. And I was stunned laying on my bed, and I heard a knock, and my mom's voice cracked. Matt, an accident has happened with your grandpa. And I didn't know Grandpa Clements, Grandpa Bertho. I just heard in her voice, like, she was broken. And it wasn't my dad that told me, it was my mom. My dad was gone. He left immediately. And he drove to Chanute, Kansas. And my mom finally came in, and she said, your grandpa shot himself with a shotgun. And I was so confused. I was like, what in the world? Is he okay? Like, what's going on? And she wouldn't tell me anymore. And then obviously we found out he took his own life. And my dad beat himself up a bit about that because he was supposed to go over there and visit him that week. And I remember at the cemetery, I grabbed his shoulders, and I said, don't you ever do this. And he didn't talk about it. He didn't want to talk about it. I remember being in the kitchen, a year or so later, and I found these pills up in the cabinet. And I was like, what are these? My mom was like, oh, those are depression pills. And I was like, what's depression? What are you talking about? Your dad takes those. He's not supposed to drink when he takes those, but he doesn't listen sometimes. So this went on, my whole life. And then in June 2020, he passed away from the Widowmaker heart attack.
Sorry to hear that.
Yeah, my purpose and calling of what I've done in public school as a choir teacher, as a private voice coach, as a private voice teacher, I've always encouraged people that I work with, students, adults, whatever, to use their voice, to the real voice, the soul and the spirit. Let that come out and say hello. And I do that because my grandpa, nobody knew he was sad. Nobody knew he was upset. Nobody knew anything. And then just one day he was like, I'm done. And that act really broke apart my whole Bertho side of the family. And, we used to have these gigantic Thanksgivings and Christmases, and second and third and fourth cousins that you would meet at these big events. 100 family members would be at these events.
Yeah, it's cool.
And after that, it just dismantled the whole family. And so my mom was actually a professional therapist after us 3 boys graduated, and she couldn't even help my dad. He would eat and drink and eat and drink and get good for a while, and then go back to eating and drinking. He'd just be busy doing welding and woodworking and anything to keep him distracted from actually working through what I wish he would have really worked through, the pain. So when he passed away, it was very obvious to me, energetically and spiritually, I have to work through this. And so that's why I do the work I do with people, is letting them understand their story, their pain, their trauma, whatever it is. That wound can be turned into wisdom, with lessons being learned. What's the gift of the story? And then what do we know to be true now? And that's the work that I get to do every single day. I'm very grateful and thankful that God allowed me to zoom out to see how I can grow into a better version of me.
Mm-hmm.
But it meant that I had to face what my grandpa and my dad couldn't defeat. And so I defeated it. And now I'm teaching my clients and my students and everybody that works with me how to find, keep, share, and connect their voice and let their spirit and soul come out and say hello.
It's important work, especially with that, because do you carry on legacy? And there's what's it? Something Smalley saves his family. I don't know if you've ever seen the movie, but the dad's a drunk, and all their generations of dads have been on the roof, fallen off, and died.
Oh wow!
So the dad's repeating that, and the son's trying to save his dad and be like, no, don't do that. Everybody else has done that, and it's a cycle, you know, and it's one that I think, and that's what we were talking about, that nurture versus nature is. How did you decide that that's not going to be for you?
That's a good question. I asked Ed Milet that same question last week. The catalyst moment, right? It's really weird. There's a movie, I've told Angela this story before. I don't really talk about it that much because it's kind of weird. But there's a movie called Stranger Than Fiction by Will Ferrell's in it. And it's a movie where this lady that's a famous author in real life that is in the story is writing a story about Will Ferrell's character. Well, Will Ferrell in the story happens to be an actual real life person that she is narrating his whole life. It's really bizarre. So,
honey, shut up.
That's all right.
Honey.
Hello. And Will was actually a real character in the movie. And so I'm watching this movie in my living room, in my chair, and this overwhelming sensation comes through me that's like, you should not let anybody else write your story. And I weighed at that time 272 pounds. I was drinking every day almost because I was an adult. I can, right? And I just started bawling my eyes out. And my wife at the time, I'm divorced now, but she ran in because she heard me really sobbing. It's one of those really ugly, really carnal cries. And she goes, "What's wrong?" I said, "I'm a fake. I'm such a fake and phony. I teach my kids every single day, my students every day, how to be the best version of themselves. And I challenge them to keep the promises to themselves that they know to be true inside of themselves. And I am just a complete fake." And so the next day I woke up and I started walking every day and running every day. That was catalyst number one. Catalyst number two is when my dad passed away. A precursor to that was me doing 75 Hard the first time. And I read the book, we've talked about this. I read the book Becoming Supernatural by Dr. Joe Dispenza. In that book, it said energy is frequency. Frequency carries information. I was like, I know how to teach that. I do that every day. So that moment, I realized that this intuitive voice, this supernatural spirit, God voice, I knew how to teach people to get into flow state in a way to when they would speak, when they would sing, people would feel their emotions. And more importantly, they'd see the visions that we want the audience to see. And so that summer, I got to go to London at King's College and present Performance Magic in front of a whole, my voice nerd peers of the world. And it was really, really awesome. But I remember being in the Olympus Hotel and God whispering to me, "You're done with public school. You're supposed to teach leaders." And I fought that hard. So the catalyst of 75 Hard, the catalyst of the moment of the Will Ferrell story, the catalyst of reading that book and then presenting in London. Obviously, COVID changed everything for everybody.
For everybody.
It was like the Thanos snap. but there have been multiple catalyst moments that have happened. But I think when my dad passed away and I was driving home and I got the call and I'm on a speakerphone, I'm listening to Circle of Life from Lion King. That's when I really knew this is bigger, this is deeper than just me teaching people voice. Because I felt my dad's energy, his spirit, almost in a very crazy way, recycle into my body. Like the good parts, but also the stuff that was left undone, that was his darkness, his demons. And somebody had to deal with it. And so if I didn't deal with it, my sons Max and Leo would have to deal with it.
Yeah.
And so I finally, Angela encouraged me to talk to a guy named Gene Early, who I think you know Gene, and then Leon Monley. And I don't think I've ever been this whole in my life to this point in my life. The understanding that I have of the body and the ego, the soul and spirit, and my calling and purpose now is way more clear, to the point we had a business meeting yesterday talking about the future of Voiced by Matt and where we're going with it. But yeah, I think those catalyst moments, there's many of them, but I think accepting the calling for a person, a human that you know to be true, I think that is the most significant catalyst moment.
It's kind of funny. We're like on the same timeline because I feel like kind of like a calling too. So I'm actually figuring out how to either be a deacon, a minister, or a chaplain because with me and Honey's service, we're working with hospice.
Oh, wow.
And if somebody were to pass away right there, I would be one of those and I would be able to, say a prayer.
Yeah.
And with Honey's nonprofit that we're starting, our goal is to travel the world and promote a short version of the workshop of Vindec EU, therapy visits with Honey, and then me and Lacey got SIMS certified. So it's CISM, which is critical incident stress management, and this allows us to work with first responders.
Oh, wow.
Tow truck drivers, dispatchers, and everything. So if like there's a really bad scene, we're going to be soon, we just took our first course, but we'll soon be put on a crisis response team. So that's also, why,
awesome.
Kind of like what you were just saying, like the calling.
Yep.
Like I never felt like this before myself.
Yeah, you have to say yes.
So
you have to accept it.
One thing you teach is something called let your soul come out and say hello. But your soul wasn't allowed to say hello as a kid. So when you're teaching the project to someone to speak with confidence and to be authentic, who are you really teaching?
Well, you're challenging my ego right now, but you're also you're calling out my spirit and soul right now. So I see you. I see you for who you really are. I see your soul. I see your spirit.
Yeah.
I see your potential. I see what you can be. I see what you could be. That's why I'm a teacher. That's why I've always been a teacher. In high school, I taught preschool Sunday school. And when I was in college, I got the opportunity to do a American Legion Boys State as a counselor for 3 years. And I was a county counselor. And the county counselor, you got to be in charge of 90 going to be seniors in high school. And there were 10 counties. And so I had what did I have? I had Patton County, MacArthur County. They were all the presidents, of course. And I remember when I had that first moment to stand in front of those teenagers, and I was in charge of a staff of 5 counselors, and I was like the CEO of the county, and then 90 going to be seniors in high school. I remember one of the first things I said to them, I said, "You're not here to prove to me or anybody else why you're the top 10% in Kansas. You earned your spot here today, just like everybody else did out of the 800 to 1,000 kids that are here. I challenge you to prove to yourself that there is no ceiling on your potential. So if you commit to that person that's inside of you, that you know what you're supposed to do, you know how hard you're supposed to work. What is that? What could you do?" And so there was like 1 year there's 5 or 6 state government seats, governor, lieutenant governor, attorney, treasurer. Out of like the 5 or 6, we had 4 from my county out of like the 1,000 kids there. And then the last year that I was county counselor, they told me, they said, you're done. You're done. You're done being county counselor. Like, we got to let other people have a shot. And I was like, man, what in the world? No, I love this. And they said, well, we got to give other people a shot.
Like, show me the rule book. I need to see
Well,
rules.
it was a policy then.
What code?
And so then I realized I had to go back to my music ed guy that was in charge of the music ed program at Friends University, Dr. John Taylor, because I was a real asshole to him. I quit my major. I was like, F you, this sucks. And he said, Matt, you're going to have to pass math for liberal arts with a C or better, and you're going to have to write a paper of why we should even let you back in the music education program. So I say that because at the end of the boys state thing, a guy came up to me and he said, he was in charge of all the grading for all the projects for the whole week. Mm-hmm. And he goes, I got to talk to you, Matt. I go, come here. And he's like, what? I was like, what? He goes, how did you do it? I said, what are you talking about, George? He said, how did you get them to produce those projects as perfectly as they did? In the history of Boys State that I've been here for like 15 years, nobody's ever done what you did. I was like, well, what do you mean? What did you do? Mm-hmm. Did you cheat? Did you have like the city councilors and did you have them do it for me? I was like, no. He said, what did you do? I said, I just challenged them to be their best. That's it. That's all I did. Mm-hmm. He said, well, you have a gift of teaching. And so I went back. I told Dr. Taylor that. He said, this is what you have to do. And it took me 6.5 years to graduate college, but I did it. And then I got to be a public school teacher for 19 years.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
You don't even look that old.
Oh, thanks, man.
You just look young, right? All right, Angela.
Yes.
Oh, yeah, good.
Like I said, it's going to go back and forth. So you were 8 years old when your brother's addiction destroyed your family. Mm-hmm. You watched everything fall apart. Now you fix broken businesses. But Evolve isn't really about business strategy, is it?
No, absolutely not. Absolutely not. I mean, it took me, well, we'll say we're older than we look probably, but it took me a good 44 years to realize that. Evolve is all about how to recover yourself from where you've been.
Talk about where you've been.
Yeah. So to what you said, my brother suffered with addiction. He started about the age of 16, actually with cannabis. That was how he started using. And it became this very destructive thing in our household because my dad would catch him and my dad and mom would fight. And then it turned into an entire war within the family. And so when I was 8, my parents actually got divorced, which I was grateful for at the time, just because of all of the anger and turmoil in the household. And when my sister and I moved with my mom, and she was a single mom raising us, she was, working all the time and really didn't have an opportunity to spend much time with us. And because of that, I really struggled with self-worth because I felt I wasn't worthy enough. My dad was always off chasing women around. And so instead of seeing me on weekends, he was supposed to see me. I would get that phone call on Friday night. Oh, I'm not coming. I had something come up. And so throughout most of my childhood, I really struggled with believing that I was worthy of people wanting to be around me and spend time with me. And we had moved, so I didn't have a friend group. I had to kind of reinvent myself. Mm-hmm. And it was tough. It was really hard. And so I performed throughout high school, college, all of that, the grades, the sports, all of that, to be seen and to get attention and to feel love from my family. Mm-hmm. And I started a career outside of college. I was very successful at it. Similar thing, I worked around the clock trying to prove my value, prove my worth. And so when I finally got into business for myself, I continued on that same vein. And then when I was 32, I almost died. So I had a blood clot in my ovarian vein that almost killed me. And it wasn't quite enough to fully wake me up to realize that I was doing too much, that I had physically put my body on that place where I was just doing too much. Mm-hmm. But about 5 years later, I got to the point in my life where I finally saw, like, you just don't feel like you're good enough. And that's why you're working so hard. And that's why you're doing so much. And that's why you put your body through the things you put your body through. And so now, as a small business owner, I want to help people recognize when they're still trying to work out of those childhood wounds. They're still trying to live life as that little kid, and then help them figure that out, see it, and work through it.
I think that's important because a lot of it is childhood and what you carry. And imagine a world where there was no fear of expression or, judgment.
Yes.
People could live a lot easier. And that's why they say the graveyard is one of the richest places in the world, because that's where everything goes to die that didn't get brought to life.
Yeah.
And that's why it's so important to be able to have those wake up moments, whether it's fully, half, or whatever, to be like, no, like, I don't want to let this slip by, because the problem is hindsight's 20/20, and we don't get these wonderful thoughts about, oh man, we should set ourselves up for success until much later. Because like you guys, I was much busy trying to fulfill a feeling versus actually planning a strategy or a foundation. So talk a little bit about, you said the food and relationships to cope with your deep lack of self-worth. And now you teach leaders, owners, and independents. Building a business that doesn't need you to control everything. Is that what you're teaching others, what you desperately need to learn yourself?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I ended up performing to medicate. That was one way to do it, because that's how I got the accolades from people. The other thing I did was I loved to eat. I still love to eat. It's something we have in common.
That's great. I love going out to eat. It's one of
We're
my
going out to
favorite
eat
things.
tonight. I'm so pumped.
Yeah, no, we but there was a time in my life where I used food definitely to medicate, to work through the emotions, just to kind of feed the emotions and not allow them to happen. Like Matt, he mentioned he was 270 pounds at one time. I
still can't believe that.
I was like 230.
By the way.
Yeah. I think I got up to like 230, 235, which is on a 5'4" frame, not a small amount. And that happened in my 30s. So that was not long ago, where I finally met it face to face and said, you know what, this is not healthy. I can't continue to live like this, and I need to change my life. And then I started uncovering all these layers of things. And so helping people work through those layers is really what I'm passionate about. And once they start to work through the layers, they can then build a business that allows other people to also flourish underneath them. It gives you the ability to not control anymore. Once you realize that you're trying to control these things, you're controlling it through food, right? You're controlling it through overwork. You're controlling it through, financial ways. Once you learn that you're using that control for those things, and you recognize that, hey, I want to teach the people who are in my business to uncover their own issues and work through them, then your business can flourish, and you get to watch your team grow. It's like raising kids. It's super fun. I love it.
Well, even when we took the course for the CISM course, they're like, if you're using this course, and they were speaking to everybody that was in the class, to fix how you feel inside, that's not going to help, and that's the thing is with healing, it's really an internal battle. And using myself as an example, there's been so many times I myself, like you guys, have experienced imposter syndrome, or the thought of, not having someone or being loved or whatever, even though my parents were great, a little bit different than your background. I had the fairy tale, but there's pros and cons with a sheltered life. There's things where, because me and Lacey are business owners and Logan is homeschool, he gets to see the real version where when you sometimes become adult, you're like, oh my God, I had no idea that they went through this.
Wow.
You know what I mean? So there's a lot of good and bad, but I think in your case specifically, trying to, what a lot of people do is like, it's a serotonin release. Oh, well, I can't do this, but I can go to the restaurant and eat real quick, and I can get whatever I want. I'm still in control, and then being able to separate yourself and saying, is that type of the control, the appropriate control that's going to best represent me? Because if not, now you're just an overpowered maniac who's, doing whatever. And does it really fix the purpose? In the song, Chemical Dream by a band. It's like an older band by Bipolar is the name of it. Mm-hmm. He said the stuff that you take to forget all your pain may have changed how you felt, but it doesn't leave much of your heart behind.
Yeah,
and that's kind of the same thing too. Is like, sure, you can get an adrenaline release, but does that really fix the core? Like your dad's drinking, mm-hmm. The things that he was really battling, it wasn't the alcohol. It was, that's the tip of the iceberg. Right. It's everything that you don't see underneath that water zone.
Yeah.
So you could have just been a business consultant. You could have stuck to financials and operations, but you made it personal. You made it about transformation. Why couldn't you do it any other way?
Because it doesn't fix, again, to your point, right? To what we just talked about, that masks the issue. It doesn't actually address it. So what I find with most people that I've worked with over time is that we'll uncover one issue, and then they've got some other issue that's covering up something else. And it's really until you get to the baseline of who you are as a human being and why you need to connect with yourself and understand what you love and what makes you happy. Matt's got these 4 questions that he asks everybody to help them better understand themselves. Like once you start to uncover those things, then you can really fix the issues. Because they're just symptoms. They're not the real problem.
Well, it's just putting a Band-Aid on something mm-hmm. that needs stitches.
Yeah.
It's just going to bleed out again.
Exactly.
It don't going to take so much.
Yeah.
So let's see here. The next one we're going into is the platform as a therapy. So we'll start with Matt. When you're coaching someone through finding their authentic voice and they have a heartbreaking moment, what happens to you inside?
I see the opportunity. I see the gift when they don't see it.
Mm.
I think that's a part of my superpower, actually. I actually worked with a lady 2 or 3 days ago, and she's brand new to me, and she told me kind of her whole life story.
Mm-hmm.
And, people, that happens when I work with people, they just kind of go, bleh. And she said, I'm just vomiting my whole life out to you. I was like, well, that's fine. That's what I need. But there was something that I did at the end of her telling me that story that I don't think I've had a real awareness to until she told me what I did as a teacher. And I'm sure that I've done this with a lot of my clients, but there's something about like her that was like, Matt, no one has ever explained to me my story in the framework in the way that you just did so beautifully. Can you just say it for me? And I was like, but I thought about it. And one of the things I say to my clients a lot is, your normal is our extraordinary. So your normal way that you grew up, like you just talked about being
sheltered.
Mm-hmm.
And we would unpack that completely, right? And we would talk about what a day in the life was like, and how did mom and dad handle conflict, and what did you notice, and how these kinds of things. And then we would fast forward time, and then fast forward more time to the present day, right? And so I see the gift before they even know that there's a gift. I see the opportunity before they even think about the opportunity. So when they're talking to me, I just kind of let go of judgment, and I just be.
Yeah.
And it's like I get this framework for how they can talk about their story in a way that is absolutely profound, but is going to really impact people too. I'm not going to tell her story, but what I can say is that the framework that I use, which we're actually going to make a video of soon, it's very simple. It's story. What are the 3 lessons? What's the gift? What do we know to be true now? That's it. That's the story. And that's after years of work and finding out, to me, what's the most valuable thing to help people through the process of telling that story. And so, yeah, that's the gift, is hearing someone speak about their story and then me immediately being able to recognize the opportunity and gift.
just like a miner during like the gold rush. There's gold in them hills.
Oh,
You know what I
yeah.
mean? Like, and that's the beauty of it. You know, a lot of times, even ourselves, one of my favorite songs by One Less Reason, which is probably one of my favorite bands, talks about this song. Said, "Where did you go?" is the name of the song. And in the song, it goes, "When I was looking for a change in you, I found a change in me that I didn't see." And I think that's a lot of it too, because as entrepreneurs, we go through times of burnout where we hate what we do. We hate life. Nothing's working. And it's bullshit. You know, I just go get a 9 to 5. At least I have security.
Yeah.
You know? Maybe be able to afford the Porsche like the guy, whatever. You know, but it's like, but if I keep trying, I could buy the McLaren, not the Porsche. And I could have the big house on the hills. But, you know, it's do we have it in us? And I think when you find that purpose of, it's not just about the financials, it's not just about the materials, it's about what is actually being created physically, spiritually, emotionally, and when it transforms somebody, that's way more valuable than a bar of gold, because now somebody can now take the steps to feed their family or do what they need to do to be in the game, so to speak.
Yeah.
Angela, when a business leader finally admits they've been running from their own trauma and you walk them through it, does this complete something in you?
You know, it makes this act of serving other people makes me whole.
Yes.
100%.
Talk about it.
Yeah. I mean, I'll say that one of the things that I really love to do, similar to what Matt said, when someone tells their whole story to me, people do that with me also. I'm like, oh, here we go. This is it. Like, this is going to be your moment. This is your moment of clarity. And I turn everything inside off and just allow it. Like he said, I just allow it to come to me, and I just be, right, and receive it. And then I get this overwhelming feeling. Most of the time I get direct connection to spirit, and am able to help them really uncover that like baseline piece that they need to pull out so that it doesn't stay in there and continue to fester. I
also am a person that has the mindset that happiness is not a constant state of mind. It's what you make it. You know what I mean? And that's something that I think a lot of people should take into consideration. Is it's not this constant place where you'll be forever. It's just like a hotel. You're going to stay there for the night, but you could be in a different room the next night. You could be leaving that night, you know, you could be in a different city. So there's different accountabilities. But what I also like about what you said too is I do this thing called, I guess I'm saying it now for the first time, but I get, when people talk to me, I get like trapped where like my right eye focuses. I almost get like tunnel vision, and I'm just like, it's like almost like the world like stops and I'm just listening to them. And, you know, being in that trance where you talked about being connected to a higher power and being able to feel that energy is very real, because just like with you guys, I'm sure, I already know, public speaking and doing your courses and traveling, it's an endorphin release. I consider it next to like sex, smoking weed, drinking, or, you know, landing a business gig. Like those are all like, they release the same amount of endorphins because you love what you do, you're passionate about it, and that really fuels you. Let's see here. There's an idea that you can't give what you don't have. But what if it's the opposite? What if your giving is how you get it? Have you healed things in yourselves by helping others heal them? And if so, name one thing that you've healed in each of yours.
Okay, so I'm gonna
go for it.
Our relationship. Let's talk about that.
That's great. No, this is great. Me and Lacey were a one-night stand, have a relationship that should never have happened. So go for it.
Yeah. So,
honey, please.
So she came over to love on me. She's like, she loved that.
If you don't mind her, I'll let her.
Yeah,
do her
she can
thing.
stay around.
Okay,
She's
honey,
fine.
go on.
So in our relationship, when we first started dating, I don't think I realized how unavailable I actually was emotionally.
Yeah.
It's the first time he's hearing this.
That's great.
Yeah. I don't think I realized.
This is the first time.
I know. I don't think I realized.
I'm gonna have to charge for you guys to see the rest of this episode.
Yeah, I don't think I realized how emotionally unavailable I was, because I didn't. Still, that little girl was still didn't trust anyone who loved her.
Yeah.
And so working through Matt having similar like trust issues and value issues allowed me to recognize how much I had pushed people away in my life. So that was definitely a big thing that our relationship has helped me heal. And also the ability to go back and apologize to those people for not being that open person that I could have been then, which has been a big thing for my growth, for sure. There's been a million other things. I mean, we've gotten back together and broken up at least 1,000 times in the last 2 years and 3 months. But I wouldn't be with anybody else. I wouldn't have it any other way. And our relationship has taught me a lot about myself.
Well, the great thing about love is it's unique. Mm-hmm. And the real destination, just like in the song Vienna, is where you wind up together. It doesn't matter what happens along the way. Yeah. And if you keep it like that, the story continues. With me and Lacey, we were a one-night stand. Lacey got pregnant. We were actually on a break with 2 other people. And then we were in court. We had drop-off and pickup dates. So we used to fight nonstop. And now we own multiple businesses together and do our things. And it's the power of when you find your soulmate, it all comes around. And I think that's one of the beautiful things about love, life, and business is, if you go in it with an open mind, anything's possible. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
what you're able, like I told you earlier about what you're able to achieve together by being the right people for each other. Yeah. And no relationship, including mine, has ever been perfect. Actually, I take that back. My grandfather and my grandmother were married for 78 years.
Whoa. Wow.
They met when she was 17 and he was 18 in the Navy. And he just passed at 103 years old. Wow. Yeah. Wow. I spoke at his funeral, which was really awesome. Oh. Yeah. And then my grandmother died when she was 84, 2 months before Logan was born. Oh. So, what do you call it? So I always considered them a unique case. But, the thing is, destination, where do you guys wind up? And if the love and support is constant, that's a healthy relationship. And from what I see online, I see a lot of love and energy. So thank you so much for sharing that with me. I mean, this is great.
Oh, yeah.
So Matt, what is your one thing?
Repeat the question.
Okay. There's an idea that you can't give what you don't have. But what if it's the opposite? What if giving is how you get it? Have you healed in things yourself by helping others?
Yeah, I think a lot of the work that I've been privileged to do with Gene and Leon has been learning about the gift. So when I was a teacher, I would overshare a lot. And I think part of the oversharing was healthy for me, but it was not healthy for everybody else. And so I think that, through that process, I learned valuable things of how much to share with public, with people, especially teenagers. But that process of me being so vulnerable, so open, so just, I'm sad today, guys. I'm feeling depressed today. I know now that I probably shouldn't have done that, but in the work that I've got to do to this point, that was just a part of the process to get me to this point, to let me realize as a teacher that it's important to have somebody to talk to that is a therapist, that is a pastor, that is a leader, that's a soulmate, to be able to go bleh and get it out. Yeah. But I learned that 90% of what does come out of our mouth should be positive, 10% negative. That's a little rule that I had to create, but I had to go 90% negative for a portion of my life, hold on to 10% of the hope and positive to get to this point. So yeah, I believe that it did in a way heal me. Mm-hmm. It also made me understand the power of energy and emotions. Mm-hmm. I remember when we first started dating, there'd be moments that I would share just really deep stuff with Angela, and I had no idea, she was going through emotionally stuff too, that was really deep and dark. But I think because we did that, we got to relate to each other in a way that was deeper than probably any relationship should be at the very beginning of the relationship.
Yeah.
And so for me, it's like you need somebody to be able to just unload. Mm-hmm. And in my unloading, I know over my whole lifetime, it's the only reason why I'm still here right now.
Yeah. Oh, I think that's also too, and that's why with mental health is you don't have to be an expert to help somebody. You just have to be a good and decent human being who understands, and be able to meet somebody at their level. One thing as a Mason, and part of our obligation, which I can't say, talks about the understanding that, you have to put yourself in positions of other people, you know what I mean? And being able to have that conversation and that talk is so important, because if not, it just gets bottled up inside. And me and Lacey sit here every morning at 4:30 in the morning, and we're watching our little crime documentaries with our laptops. And there's this kid today who murdered this girl because he felt like the women race did not like him, and all this other stuff. And if he had just had somebody to talk to, somebody that just said, "Hey, listen, I know you feel a little bit different right now, but let me give you some advice." It's what happens after that. So I love that. Matt, you teach the 5 C's: confidence, clarity, communication, command, presence, and courage. Which ones are you still working on yourself?
Courage.
Ooh, I like that.
No doubt.
Courage
to be
definition.
Me. Courage to be me, unapologetically, all the time.
Tell them why. Tell them what you do a lot that you're working through. People need to hear it because they need help with that.
What you tell me?
People pleasing.
Oh, people pleasing.
Oh yeah.
So one of the lessons that I learned this last week from my teacher Jean that we worked through was letting people have their experience. So with the power of the voice, it's also very influential, and I can encourage a lot of people to do kind of what I want them to do.
Yeah.
And so it's about letting people have this space to experience life the way they're supposed to. Not stopping it, not trying to meddle.
Yeah.
And then, the second lesson was we are all a part of the whole. So you're in our lives for a reason in this moment. There's no judgment. This is supposed to be.
Nope.
All right.
Safe space.
Number 3, people pleasing. So just being able to just to get it out. And I say that because, the last 2 or 3 years were rough for me. I went through a divorce. I got my keys taken away as a public school teacher because a couple kids said I was targeting them and bullying them. And it was me basically saying, put your phone away, stand up and sing, just like I did for 20 years in public school. But it was time for me to go. Like, God ripped me out of public school, and I left kicking and screaming. Like, I did not want to go because it was my safe space. It was a machine. It was easy. And then the 4th lesson was, oh man, I forgot.
Well, I think on the people pleasing thing, I think we need to elaborate a little bit for people who are listening. I feel like it's something we need to talk about.
I think it's like,
it's about having the difficult conversations with people that you feel are going to hurt their feelings, or you feel might become some type of conflict. Too often we hold back on the kind, just like your example of the kid who murdered that woman. Like, too often we hold back
well, it's a little
on the
extreme.
things.
You don't
no,
look
but
like
I mean,
murderer.
too often.
But then again,
no, but too often we hold back. We hold back on what we actually are meant to share, which not only could help the other person to grow and become more, but can also help you to grow and become more. And so what Matt means by not taking people's experience from them is in those moments where we feel like, oh, I don't want to say that to them because they're going to get upset about it. Well, maybe in that moment, that person was supposed to hear that message. And so if you decide not to share it, then you have actually stunted or hindered their ability to grow. So it's important as people that we use our authentic voice. We use the gift that God gave us in a voice to not only help ourselves grow, but to help other people grow.
Oh, I couldn't agree more.
Yeah.
And if people could think about it like a tick stuck to your leg, and you have tweezers, and you're trying to pull out the tick, and the tick's trying to hold on. It's kind of like God, It's like, no, I'm comfortable here. This is where I belong. And then the higher power, God, supreme architect of the universe and masonry, it's like, no, I have a higher purpose for you, and you may not see it right now, but I'm going to make you extremely uncomfortable so I can build that confidence in you, because once again, you see something that they don't.
Yep.
So, Angela, Evolve is a 4-day intensive where leaders transform their lives and their businesses. When you're guiding someone through their breakthrough, are you reliving your own?
It depends on what they're working on. It depends on what they're working on. I would say that now, I started Evolve 4 years ago in March. And I know it's hard to believe it's been that long.
Wow.
Everyone's journey is so different. It is so different. I think the biggest thing for me when I'm helping people on their journey is remembering where I was.
Yes.
Like, it's important to remember where you were, the person you were when you were first going through it, when you're helping someone else through it, because you need to meet them where they're at in order to help them get to where they need to go. So I wouldn't say I relive my journey, but I will say is I remember my journey so that I'm respectful of where they are as they're going through their journey. Otherwise, you go through things, you learn, you grow, and then you become this hardened person to that particular path. Then you can come across really like, no, but you should do this or you should do that, or, feel that way. If you remember where you came from, you don't present in that way. So I don't relive it, but I remember it.
Yeah, also too, I think an important thing is once you are to a certain point is to remember where you came from, because we talked about humility and understanding, and one of those things where you see it all the time, people get too cocky, too confident, and it's not about making it, it's about keeping it once you've made it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Anybody can make it. I went viral for one day, and then Instagram blocked my account because it was cannabis related. So, you know what I mean? It was like, it was fun for 24 hours, but it didn't last. But, the mindset, the mentality, everything else that is in place was like, okay, well, whatever. We'll keep moving. It's not about that. Yeah. Matt, you said that your real work has been breaking your family tree. That's a massive statement. What does that actually mean, and how does Voice by Matt help you do that?
Well, you said something, and I haven't talked about this hardly at all. And I'm going to meet with him actually tomorrow. His name is Brian. And Brian is kind of a amazing astrology, kind of numerology, spiritual dude. And I met him 2 or 3 years ago. And he actually used to be in a band.
Oh, wow.
He is an incredible human. Brian McCarter is his name. And I remember when I started, right before I met Angela, I remember one of my main symbols that was going to start really taking root was I was the season I was in was resemblance of a giant tree, like a giant tree. And I just got that visual when you said that, because now it makes sense why it was a tree, because I was forming as the tree. And I remember he said that to me and it didn't make sense. But I understand why now. It's because I started to work through the harder stuff, and I was on the journey to work on the harder stuff when I met Angela, with what my dad went through and my grandpa went through. But changing the family tree forever is the ability to look at the ability to look at the darkness in your roots of the family tree, the dirt, the grime, the yuck, and being able to face it head on, to go through the pain, to feel the pain. And then, like I said, what are the 3 lessons? What's the gift? What do we know to be true now? And my sons, Max and Leo, I'm going to be able to teach them this process so that, because they're very much like me. They feel very deeply. And I will plant little seeds with them constantly on how to deal with it. I don't believe in just numbing it. I don't believe in just taking a pill to numb it, to subside it. I believe to face it, but as an adult, I had to face it. As their father, I had to face it. To the point of, like the last 2 or 3 years, having those suicide thoughts, having like those moments of like, why am I even here? Like, what is this for? Like, really, God? Like, I got to go through all of this to, why?
Yep.
Well, it was to become the tree. It was become the tree. And, without becoming and recognizing the tree, like I probably most likely would not have met Angela, and been on this journey with her, because she's a tree and I'm a tree, and we've rooted ourselves.
You guys are a forest.
That's right. We're a forest.
Very small forest, but we're a forest.
Hey.
But I encourage everybody that listens to this to really take a look at the pain. And why is it your pain? Because the pain's a gift. The pain is a gift. And you have to figure out the lessons of that pain as fast as possible. One of the proofs of self-love that I've been working on that I'll share with you is heal fast so that you can move forward. And I think a lot of us, we don't have the tools because nobody really wants to talk about it. In fact, there's this whole culture that Angela and I are very aware of don't recognize the wounds, just go forward, just power through it, just grit it out and, power through it. Well, eventually there's going to be a moment where you have to face it.
Eventually you end up in life.
You have to ask them, are they at happy hour every night? Are they, how do they take care of themselves?
They're living in unhappy hours.
Yeah, exactly.
Most of the time. And there's not a fulfillment of happiness unless there is grind and work and fight and compete and all of that.
That takes work. I wanted just an easy life. Like, I just was expecting I could take photos and then be rich.
People love to be comfortable.
Well,
love it.
I'm being sarcastic.
Well, yeah,
to what you're saying.
I know that
that's the society that we live in.
Yeah.
It's like, well, why should I earn it, or why should I work for it if somebody could just give it to me?
Well, the answer is like it's your life. You have a body, an ego, a soul, and a spirit for a reason. You're on this earth for this time and space, as we know to be true, as we have conscious awareness of. All right, it's a gift. This timeline of 0 to 103 or 120 or however long we get to live.
Or how short.
Correct.
And that's also why it's so important.
Heal fast.
Yeah.
And so the quick of the proof of love is wounds to wisdom as fast as possible.
I love that. Let's see here. Angela, your brother's addiction tore your family apart. Wait, hold on. Is this the same one? Nope. Okay, it's the right one. Angela, your brother's addiction tore your family apart. Now you help leaders become the version of themselves that doesn't pass trauma down. Is that you completing what you couldn't do as an 8-year-old? I'm sorry. I feel like I never passed like 3rd grade reading.
Is that completing me as an 8-year-old? I think what I couldn't do at 8 was make peace in my house. And I still can't make peace in my house. I've tried. My house has peace. My family's house, not so much. I think what I do help people do is figure out how to have peace in their life. So yes, I would say it is definitely something I couldn't accomplish at the age of 8 that I tried desperately to do. I am doing now. I do tend to bring peace to people in most cases, unless it's Matt when we're having a moment together. But for the most part, that is my goal. Like, how can I help you achieve calm?
Yeah, that place of because when we were in the course, they don't say, you shouldn't say the word normal. So, because normal could be different
it's
for all
variable
types of
for
people.
everybody. Yeah.
And, and just that calm, that peace where, you can sleep a little bit better. You feel a little better about what you do each day, and I wanted to say, too, that what you were talking about, where temporary healing is kind of like getting the numbing cream at the tattoo place. By the time they do the stencil and everything, it's already been about 45 minutes, and then about 2 hours in the tattoo, you're feeling everything.
Yeah.
So, if you do not have those foundations and place, yes, they can be blanketed and they can stop hurting, like taking Tylenol for your headache.
Yeah.
But it is going to come back in a force.
Inner peace only comes when you work through the trauma. That's it. That's the only time you get inner peace. Otherwise, it manifests itself as anxiety, control. Those things are never going to bring peace.
So now what we're going to talk about is true therapy. Well, that's what the title it gave me. It says, traditional therapy is sitting in a room talking about your trauma and processing it. Your therapy is building something that helps others. Which one has healed more?
Oh gosh, I did therapy for years, and I feel like it's a path everyone should take for a short period of time, just to recognize it, to understand it. Some people have locked things so far away that they can't even remember things that happened. Therapy helps you unlock it to remember what happened. But that being said, therapy is not a platform to help you fully move through it. It just helps you identify it. Coaching and the work that we do with people helps you actually take the next step and kind of move through it, and have someone who's working alongside of you to help you when you get stuck. Therapy, in a lot of cases I've seen, unfortunately, will help people get stuck and stay that way, as opposed to move through it and actually get to the other side of it.
I do believe that, but I also believe in the sense that it's finding the right therapist, just like finding the right human.
True.
If you keep riding up with the wrong person who doesn't respect your views or your terms, or is non-denominational with thoughts, or stuff like that, it's going to be very hard to want to open up.
Yeah.
But if you find someone that's like, wow, you're who I want. First of all, you're who I want to be because you're where I want to be emotionally. And two, I feel like I can relate to you. I feel like you're a real person, and I think that's also the thing about therapy too, is it's not just clinical. It's being able to be human and have conversations and be with people and create a moment where people are like, I've never said this before, or, I don't think I've ever said this, publicly. It's the safe space. And that's what, I try to do with Vindec EU. Is to create, because if you can master that, like you said, anything is possible.
Oh, yeah.
You can start to see the potential, but like you said, there's so many layers, and we get to a point where we mask it, and I, not to throw Lacey under the bus, but she says that, a lot of times that I'm sure some of my trauma I've completely blocked out because I don't remember certain portions of it.
Yeah.
And it's a real thing. Yeah. But once somebody brings that to you, and that's why the SISM class is so important. Who's going to be there for that bad day?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Your therapist is, once a month or twice a week or whatever.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Who's going to be there? Who's going to help build those steps? Yeah. And that's what you guys are doing. So, you guys are doing awesome. Do you think that you'd be as healed as you are right now if you hadn't built your platforms?
No way. Each one of us has a design that God, creator, higher intelligence, whatever you want to believe in, but each one of us has a design that is true, and I think is like the full experience of being a human is finding that sweet spot of the design to where it's real and whole, where you feel whole, where you complete the design. And I think the more we can be in completion of the design every day, that's fulfillment. That's when we're in flow state. That's when we're in the money spot. And this work that I do, I didn't set out to make this. I was a voice teacher, and these students would come in and they'd sing for me, and I'd be like, "What's wrong? Are you okay? What's going on? How are your grades? Are you sick? What are you doing about that?" And so over time, it took like 5 or 10 years. I started trying to figure out a system, a MAT system, where I could be like, "Hey, did you do your homework? What'd you get on your test? I'm gonna check your grades. So I'm gonna look on PowerSchool right now." And I'd be like, "Okay, well let's categorize this with like a mental intelligence. What's your number? 1 is least, 10 is max." And then I created the physical part, physique, nutrition, health, fitness, sleep. What's your number? And I started seeing a correlation between lower numbers. They'd come in, they'd suck at singing. Higher numbers, they'd come in, they were like, they sound good. Like, they look good, something's going on. And so that just developed over time to where I have like 8 or 9 of those categories now, to where when I work with a leader, They come in, I say, okay, we're going to go through your numbers. And I rattle them off. They give me their numbers. And then I'm able to be like, okay, we need to work on emotional. We need to work on spiritual. We need to work on creativity or blah, blah, blah. And so the idea is to get them to a higher number, and then they have wholeness. So why do I say that? Because I know in my life, if I'm off on one of those categories, I need to correct that. I need to fix that. And so I might read a book or, do a meditation. But yeah, I think that totally has helped me heal. Like building this business, Voiced by Matt, everybody that I love, Angela, my former student Chase Foster, he's the Jonas Brothers musical director.
Oh, that's awesome.
He literally named Voiced by Matt. It was going to be Bertho's Voice LLC.
Oh boy.
And he said,
I'm thinking Angela had something to do with the name change.
No.
Mm-mm.
Chase was like, no, that's not it. I was like, what do you mean? He was like, nobody cares about Bertho's Voice LLC. Like,
nor can they pronounce it.
They don't even know what you're doing. They know that you're voice something, but it just needs to be voiced by Matt. And I was like, what? He's like, that's it. I'm going to show you the logo. I'm going to show you everything. I'm going to show you the color scheme. I was like, okay, Chase, run. So he did. This was 2019. He was right. But
awesome.
Everybody in my life, Angela, Chase, my former students, my current clients, we're all creating this together. And there's no blueprint. We tried to conceptualize a kind of blueprint yesterday of what we're doing, but it's going to grow. It's going to evolve.
Yep.
And absolutely, it helped in my healing process because it was me saying yes to God's design.
And letting go of control.
Letting go of control. or trying to be somebody else.
Yeah.
Well, like my therapist always tells me, control is an illusion. We can't control if it rains. We can't control if we went outside and got hit by a bus. We can't control anything. What we can control is how we respond and how we deal with, it's the ego, the super ego, and the what is it called? The last one. I can't remember. God damn it. I have to get Lacey down here. Because she's getting her PhD in psychology. That's why. But it's it's the ID, the ego, and the super ego. And they all control how you respond and perceive reality and the world and everything. The problem with the subconscious mind is it doesn't know the difference between reality and what you tell it.
Correct.
So if you constantly tell yourself, oh, I'm a loser, you will look at yourself as a loser. Like, you've ever looked in the mirror and you said, oh, I don't look good. And then there's other times where you go in the mirror and you're like, damn, I look good. You know what I mean? It's all about how you're perceiving yourself at that time, and that dives deeper into how we see ourselves. That's why, like Lacey, not to throw her under the bus, but she's lost all this weight, but she still feels like she's big. And I'm like, Lacey, I keep telling you every day, you're getting fitter and fitter. And she's like, but in my eyes, I don't see that.
Yeah.
I see what I used to see.
Yeah.
She's like, I don't know how to fix that. And it's a reality. And that's why perception and having those conversations and being able to say, am I having a healthy conversation with myself? Is this aiding to my mission and narrative and what I'm trying to do? Or is this taking me out of that and putting me back to where I was?
Yeah.
And I find myself doing that. And one of the worksheets that we have for the program talks about that. It's like, who's putting these thoughts into your head? Who said this? Where did it come from? Where's the first time you heard it? Because these negative things just don't get planted on their own.
No. And I tell people all the time, your ears hear what your mouth says, and your brain's only job is to keep you alive. And your brain works to problem solve your survival in every moment. So if you speak that out, your brain pulls it in through your ears, and then your brain's trying to figure out how to make whatever that statement was true. So if you're putting things out of your mouth that you don't want to be true, your brain is going to tell you that they are true. So you just can't say them. Yeah. You can't say them. And then as soon as you think them, you have to think to yourself, is that true or is that not true? Yeah. Is it absolutely true? Yeah. And if it's not, don't ever utter it. Yeah. Ever. Because you'll create that reality for yourself.
Well,
yes, I agree with you on that. And I have to watch out for myself because I can be very negative sometimes. So I do feel that.
Well, we got to start wrapping it up, but I want
fine.
Angela to answer her question about her business, how it healed her.
Yeah. No, it definitely, I, in all honesty, didn't start this part of my business until I went through this process myself. So, I was kind of case member number 1, I would say.
Nice.
And so, yeah, it's absolutely helped me heal myself, the whole process of starting it, creating it, going through the journey, and then giving it to other people. Mm-hmm.
Well, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
Well, we're going to have them on another show. They have a 12 o'clock meeting, so they have to get to it. But this is part 1. Next time we'll do the real segment because I wanted to do it individually to dive into more of what we talked today. Before we go, is there anything that you feel like you got out of being on the platform today?
I love your questions. They're very insightful. You asked really good questions.
And I want to can I take Honey home with me? She's so cute.
Yes, we
have
a renting fee. It's $1,500 a day.
She's adorable. Look at how pretty she is.
And you have to bring her back with a full stomach.
Oh, okay. No problem.
And then the other thing is, why did you guys decide to come on the podcast?
I just intuitively felt like it was meant to be.
Yeah, I feel like you had asked maybe a year and a half ago.
I know.
And
I'm patient.
Yeah. And so when everything came back around, I was like, it's meant to be, or it wouldn't have come back around. And I forget something happened with my schedule and couldn't make it down.
And I was here, and I was like,
yeah,
here we go.
Yeah.
No, I think it's great. Thank you guys, first of all, making the trip up here.
Thank you for having us.
Bit. We have more episodes coming your way and a lot more with Vindec EU as we also are doing the course and a lot more behind the scenes. We will see you guys next time.